The evacuation ship streaked away from Kepler 442c like silver tears against the orange-tinted sky, their drives painting contrails of hope and desperation across the burning horizon. Ambassador Vexhai of the Galactic Council watched them go. From her command vessel, her forearms folded in what humans might recognize as resignation. "The orbital fires have reached the continental shelves," reported her aide, Krilltalk. "Atmospheric oxygen content is dropping rapidly. The Terran colonies have perhaps 18 standard hours before total atmospheric collapse." Vexhai's mandibles clicked in acknowledgement. Kepler 442c had been humanity's first successful interstellar colony, a verdant world they'd called Haven. Now it was dying, consumed by plasma fires that had started when a rogue asteroid struck the planet's largest refinery complex. The cascade of explosions had ignited the atmosphere itself in certain regions, creating a runaway burn that no known technology could stop. "The human delegation?" she asked. "Still refuses evacuation. They're doing something planet-side." The Council had followed protocol perfectly. When the fires began, they'd immediately dispatched evacuation fleets for all sentient life. The Zephyrians had departed first, their crystalline forms too fragile for the increasing heat. The Mogul traders had loaded their profit margins and left. Even the stubborn Krex mining guilds had abandoned their deep core operations. But not the humans. "Transmission incoming from the surface," Krilltalk announced. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing a soot-stained human woman in a damaged environment suit. Behind her, Vexhai could see what appeared to be organized chaos, vehicles racing across burning terrain, aircraft diving through smoke clouds thick as soup. "Ambassador Vexhai," the human said, her voice crackling with static. "This is Director Sarah Chen, Haven Emergency Response Coordinator. We appreciate the Council's evacuation assistance, but we won't be needing it." Vexhai's translator struggled with the human concept. "Director Chen, our atmospheric models show your world has less than 20 standard hours of breathable air remaining. The plasma cascade cannot be stopped." Chen's face cracked into what humans called a smile, an expression that still unnerved most galactic species. "Ma'am, with respect, you've never seen humans deal with a house fire." The connection terminated. "Should we prepare forced evacuation protocols?" Krilltalk asked. Before Vexhai could respond, her tactical officer's voice cut through the bridge chatter. "Ambassador, you need to see this. Long-range sensors are detecting massive fleet movement in the outer system." The main display shifted to show space, itself seeming to fold and twist as hundreds of human vessels dropped out of faster-than-light travel. But these weren't evacuation ships. They were massive, ungainly craft that looked more like flying industrial complexes than spacecraft. "What are those?" Vexhai whispered. Her science officer, a nervous Velian named Thexor, ran rapid calculations. "I'm reading atmospheric processors, massive carbon scrubbers, and those smaller craft appear to be—" He paused, his translator clicking uncertainly. "Fire suppression aircraft. The humans call them water bombers." "Water." Krilltalk's voice pitched high with disbelief. "They're fighting plasma fire with water?" But that was only the beginning. As the fleet approached Haven, more ships continued to arrive. Agricultural vessels carrying millions of tons of flame-retardant foam, industrial haulers loaded with atmospheric scrubbers, research vessels packed with experimental terraforming equipment that no sane species would test on a dying world. And then came the volunteers. "Sensor contacts. Thousands of them," reported the tactical officer. "Personal craft, civilian, transports, converted freight haulers. They're not evacuating, Ambassador, they're moving toward the planet." The communication array lit up with human chatter as the rescue fleet coordinated with ground teams. Vexhai listened in growing amazement as humans discussed controlled burns and fire breaks, and something called aerial superimposition suppression tactics, with the casual efficiency of a species that had apparently been fighting fire since before they'd achieved spaceflight. Director Chen's voice crackled over the comm again. "Council vessel, this is Haven Emergency Command. We're implementing Planetary Fire Suppression Protocol 7 Alpha. You might want to back to a safe distance. Protocol 7 Alpha? Vexhai asked. Atmospheric bombing, Chen replied matter-of-factly. We're going to punch holes in the fire, from orbit. What followed defied every principle of safe galactic protocol. The humans began dropping controlled atmospheric charges, essentially controlled implosions, that created fire breaks hundreds of kilometers wide. Water bombers the size of frigates dove through burning clouds to dump millions of gallons of retardant directly onto plasma fires hot enough to melt rock. Ground teams in sealed vehicles raced across burning continents, setting up atmospheric scrubbers and emergency oxygen generation plants with the precision of a military operation and the stubborn determination of a species too foolish to know when they were beaten. The atmospheric oxygen levels are stabilizing, Texor reported, his voice filled with disbelief. On the surface, humans were literally wrestling fire itself. They'd turned their agricultural ships into massive spray systems, creating walls of flame retardant that stretched across entire mountain ranges. Their atmospheric processors worked overtime, scrubbing toxins from the air while simultaneously generating breathable atmosphere at a rate that should have been physically impossible. But perhaps most remarkably, they'd begun teaching other species their techniques. Krek's mining equipment, abandoned in the evacuation, was being retrofitted by human engineers to serve as mobile fire breaks. Zephyrian crystal-growing technology was being adapted to create emergency atmospheric filters. 18 hours after the Council had declared Haven a total loss, Director Chen's face appeared on the communication display again. This time she wasn't wearing an environment suit. "Ambassador Vexhai," she said, breathing Haven's air under Haven's still orange but no longer burning sky. "We wanted to thank the Council for the evacuation assistance we didn't need. Haven, Emergency Command is declaring the crisis contained. We'll have full atmospheric restoration within the next 72 hours. Behind her, humans and aliens worked together, rebuilding what had been lost, cleaning what had been poisoned, growing new life in soil that had been burned to glass just hours before." Vexhai stared at the display for a long moment before asking the question that would reshape the Galactic Council's understanding of their newest members. "Director Chen, why didn't you evacuate?" Chen's smile returned, and this time Vexhai found she wasn't unnerved by it. "Ambassador, this is our home. You don't abandon home, you fight for it." The transmission ended, leaving the Council fleet to contemplate a species that looked at a burning world and saw not a disaster to flee, but a problem to solve. In the years that followed, human emergency response teams would become legendary throughout the galaxy. They were the species you called when everyone else had given up, when the situation was hopeless, when conventional wisdom said nothing could be done. They were the species that brought buckets to fight the inferno of the universe itself. And somehow, impossibly, they won.